Hey, call me Shape, and today we're reacting to a video titled Dating in My 30s, Unpopular Opinion. Let's get right into it.
When you get older, like me, and you're in your 30s, you realize that all relationships worldwide, no matter whether it's a friendship, a romantic relationship, they are all relationships of convenience. There are modern day relationships who swear that they are choosing love. They swear they're choosing each other. But when you really start to peel back the layers of these modern day relationships, you realize that people are lying. And there's a lot more that goes into things than choosing love. Initially, I think that is what it is. I think people feel very excited and they're excited to plan a future with one another, and that is very exciting. But what happens when the novelty of that wears off? Mortgage payments are due, like just being around each other 24/7, like living together, that starts taking a toll. What about if one person is growing and they're changing and the other isn't? What if one is not as attracted to the other anymore? There are so many different dynamics that go into modern day relationships, and it's not just about choosing love. Love is something completely different to what all of you think it is. Every time I hear about love, it's always on the basis that you choosing characteristics or physical features that you enjoy about that person. It's never real stuff. It's never real. That isn't essentially what love is. That's just liking characteristics and physical features. There's a lot more that goes into love, and modern day relationships are not thinking about that. I'm not here to tear down modern day relationships, but I just know that they are not a fit for me. Now, lots of people they're married off, or they're in committed relationships, long-term relationships, and you don't know how the world works anymore outside of your relationship. And the world is a different place to what you thought it was when you first got into that relationship. And the reason why I say that is because the older you get, you start realizing that men are just different to what you had initially thought, and life, the world, is just a different place to what you had initially thought, especially when you're a child and you're thinking about marriage and you're excited for those things one day. Then when you're in your 20s and you're getting into longer term relationships, and then of course when you're in your 30s, because you hit another kind of pivotal chapter in your life whereby you can really just see things for what they are, and not just through rose-tinted glasses. Because when you get to your 30s, I would say that there is an element of pessimism that comes into play, because naturally, like, life just isn't as, like, you've been doing this for 30 plus years, you know, like, you know how life works now, and things can just become very tedious for you. Also, you're not as shocked and wowed about everything anymore. It takes a bit more to get you enthusiastic in things. But also, you realize the pattern that men have, and it's so profound by the time you get to your 30s that it can make it a lot more difficult to settle down. And the reason why I say that is because when you are in your 20s, let's just say, I don't know, your late 20s, and you are then considering marriage, maybe you're literally 30 years old, so you've just touched your 30s, but you're not in it yet, you know, you just put your pinky toe in there, but you know, you haven't really lived the 30s experience yet, and you get married and you're in a modern day relationship. You're going into that with a completely different mindset than you will have going into things when you are a little bit older.
Okay, let me stop right there. She shout out to her. Her name is Ziva, attractive girl. I've seen her picture. I'm like, all right, I'll watch the video. What it seems to me is that she's not really detailing her personal experience, other than it's not what she expected to be, right? She thought everything was going to be rose glamoured. She's going to be madly in love. We were sold a book of lies from Hollywood and Disney that are not true, okay? Marriage and being with someone long term is not just about love. Love is a part of it, but it's about duty. And this is what's hurting so many relationships, is that so many women are looking for butterfly feelings long term. A lot of men don't have the skill to do that, right? We either do that to you naturally without trying. That means we're attractive and you're madly attracted to us. And honestly, most people are average. So there's only going to be a few Chads and Tyrones like that. So that kind of feeling that you're looking for, that was manufactured by Hollywood to sell us dreams. That was manufactured by novels and different books to make you excited to read and purchase books. But the reality of it is, it's not true. So when are we going to realize that dating is about practicality, is about working with somebody to achieve a goal, to build a family, to have some responsibilities in this world, and to do our part. It's not about you having fun and being exciting. And as the older you get as women, the harder it is going to be to date. Trust me, it's not going to get easier. So let's see what else she has to say.
Realize is, would your husband still be with you if you didn't have a mortgage to split? Would he? And this is coming from the experience of knowing married men who have this dilemma. They might not be that interested in their wives anymore. They might want to explore other people. This is something common that I've noticed that can happen. And I think that when you go into modern day relationships, you feel like, okay, we're a team and we're doing everything together. That is not a lifelong commitment. To be a team, like, you can't go into somebody's mind and make them feel that for the rest of their life. That has to be something that they come up with autonomously. It's not down to you, and you can't badger somebody into being faithful to you or wanting to only be with you. What you'll realize is that things can really change once you've been with somebody for a certain amount of time. So if you've been in a relationship for 10 years, you may notice that dynamics are changing, and that maybe he isn't as attracted to you anymore. Maybe everything that he does kind of irritates you, and you kind of realize that, okay, wait, if we didn't have this mortgage and other things to uphold together, would he still be choosing me today? Would he still be choosing me? This is one of the reasons why I'm not interested in modern day relationships in the slightest. Another reason is because, again, these relationships were chosen and formed out of and cultivated out of love and the hope that love will go on and on and on, like Celine Dion sang for Titanic. That is a good film. That is a really good film. I love that film. If you get married to somebody in your 20s or early 30s, by the time you both are in your 50s, his eyes are like popping out of his head and seeing everything 20 years less than he is. I think...
Okay, let me stop right there. Okay, so she's saying she's not a fan of modern relationships, but what she's describing is modern, right? This idea of being in love with someone that you marry, that's a modern concept. The traditional concept is kind of what we're returning to now. What she's saying, splitting the mortgage, that seems reasonable to be married. But I get it. A lot of women want the honeymoon phase to last forever. And if you're a man, you got to understand this completely. A lot of women don't like the monotony of being with someone long term. You just do the same thing over and over again. They're bored. They're bored of that. They want excitement throughout their life. But let me tell you something. Excitement is something that we see in the movies. Again, I try to say Hollywood sold us a book of lies. We live in times now where we don't even realize that there's countries at war right now as we speak. People are being bombed, right? Hospitals, communities, right? They're looking to survive. You think they're thinking about love, right? For most of human history, it has always been about working together to survive and then reproduce, and then our kids got to do the same thing. But now, you know, with the Shakespeare era and that type of romantic chivalry era of literature, it just seems like people still think that this is a real, feasible way about going about life, that everything's going to be love and excitement. It's not. Most people got to work a job they don't like for a boss they don't like, for amount of money they don't like, for the rest of their lives. To pay for people they don't like, to live with people they don't like. That's life, right? In your mind, you have to take all that and try to think differently about it. That's going to be the gem of life, of how you rethink some of these concepts and you don't fall for the lies that we're told, right? Because what she's talking about is she sees people online posting like their love is, they're so excited about being in love and love is so this and about dating. And we know a lot of people are capping on Instagram. We know a lot of these couples are not really in love. If you're really in love, you're not sitting about, all right, let's make a video and post it and show everybody else. If you're trying to convince us you're in love, you're probably not in love, right? If you're trying to sell to me, because if you're really in love, why do I got to know? Right? The truth of the matter is people want to benefit from the idea that they're living a life that other people want, and that's their true happiness, of stunting on everybody else. So, yeah, don't do it for the gram. Don't date somebody so you can take great pictures and great photos, and when you have a good wedding, or you paying for something that you really can't afford, is going towards the most expensive party of your life, even though on average within 3 years you guys might be divorced. It might be better to do something more practical, like buy a house, or put your savings away towards something more valuable, like starting a family business that could perpetuate you into a future where, you know what, you can have more fun because you got more resources to have fun.
That women get left on this basis, or they're like being cheated on and they're kind of living in this situation where he has another woman on the side, he might be helping her out financially, and she's kind of having the best of him. She's having the version of him, of that husband who is not grumpy because he's actually attracted to her. Because women's attraction level definitely does go down. I'm not going to say that it's completely gone, but it goes down when a woman is really, when she completely doesn't look like she could bear a child. Because obviously by nature men are attracted to women who look like they can bear children. So naturally women in, you know, their 20s and 30s, nowadays life is just changing, and I'm going to say up to about mid 40s as well, maybe even more, because things are just changing and people are just looking better for longer. But then there's an attraction level that goes down in kind of more middle-aged years, because you know you're not going to be able to bear children, which is why it's very important, ladies, for you to keep up your looks and your appearance when you're in those middle-aged years, which is something that I will definitely be doing. It's like, what happens after those 20 years where you thought you were going into something as a team, it's been 20 years, you've raised children together, and all of a sudden he is looking at people young enough to literally be his daughter, and you just have to sit there and accept it because you have no control over his eyes, where he looks, because he has autonomy over those things. So where do you go from there?
I'll tell you where we go from here, okay? In the beginning, she talked about being pessimistic, and I understand it now. The outlook for women long-term is not as great as they thought it was going to be. The truth of the matter is this. One, women want this honeymoon phase to last forever, right? The first dates, the butterflies, all the emotions that come to getting to know somebody. And then they realize the person they thought was so great is average and regular and just like everybody else, right? Their shit don't stink. I mean, their shit stinks like everybody else, all right? But what she doesn't realize is that there's two conflicts here. Women want this fairy tale life forever, which is not going to exist, okay? But when you're in your 20s, it feels like it because you're getting into clubs for free. So many people are attracted to you. You're getting first dates for free. Like, everywhere you go in life, the whole world just seems like they're just enamored with you. But when they hit their 30s, they realize, like, oh, shit, that's not the case anymore. I'm reading a book now called Dataclysm, by one of the founders of OkCupid, which is a dating app that I used personally before, and I had a lot of success with it. One of my most favorable dating experiences came from a girl from OkCupid. Anyway, in the book he talks about that they're the 4 most attractive ages for men that men find attractive in women are 20 years old, 21 years old, 22 years old, 23 years old. Throughout the span of man's life, those are the 4 most attractive ages: 20, 21, 22, and 23. That's it. By the time a girl hits 30, and they said this, and they have all this data from the book because they could see how people make choices on dating apps where they swipe right and swipe left. They have so much, dating apps have so much data. That's why this book is really great about understanding human nature. They said that the amount of matches that girls get in their 20s, right? By the time they're 30, it goes down to a third of the matches they got in their 20s, right? So let's say they got 100 matches on average in their 20s. By the time they're 30, right, they only get 33. And they said by the time they're in their 40s, it goes down to 10%. So let's say they had 100 matches by 20s, and by the time they hit 40, it's down to 10 matches. And so as you could see, as age goes on, this fight to try to live this fairy tale lifestyle is literally evaporating in front of women's eyes, and they can't accept reality. So instead, they live in delusion. They blame everybody else. She says, oh, I'm not for modern dating. I'm not this. And all these narratives that if you just look at the evidence, none of it was true to begin with. We were lied to begin with. We told women to delay having kids and starting a family and get your degree and start a career. And then when they get into their 30s, now they want to start a career. Like I said, their matches have went down severely. Because regardless of what women think and how they think men should think, men think a certain way. And regardless of how I think, women think a certain way. And the truth of the matter is, as you get older as a woman, your options go down dramatically. Like I said, from 20 years old to 30 years old, it goes to a third. And then from 30s to 40s, it goes to a tenth of what you're 20 years old when you are in your 20s. So with that being said, the lie that you're supposed to live your best life in your 20s, we need to eradicate that. It is not true. You need to take your 20s and not have a whole phase. Instead, look for the best option you can have possibly with a man, right? Settle down with a man, give a man kids, get married first, and get the best, most valuable, most high-value man you can possibly get, because the chances of getting him in your 30s are down to a third, and in your 40s down to a tenth. And if you just look at the likelihood of getting him to begin with is low to begin with, because trust me, if you're attracted to him, other women are attracted to him too as well. So women, the life they get to live based on the data, right? This is not my personal opinion. I read a lot of books. Fault me for exercising my right to read. I know a lot of people don't. A lot of people are effectively illiterate because they can read, but they don't read. I'm not like that. I intentionally read. So this new book is absolutely incredible. Dataclysm. But as a woman, your strategy should be to try to get the most valuable man you could get initially. So in your later years, in 30 and 40, you could still have some residual of a great life because let's say that guy is rich and you guys can go on trips and that kind of thing. But the reality of it is most women won't get this because this guy is what? Top 10%, top 20%. Well, let's narrow it down because she's talking about a guy, most women talking about a guy that got money, got game, got looks. He got everything, right? And you just can't have everything in life. I'm sorry to say this to women. You might find a rich guy, but he might be overweight. You might find a guy that got game, but he's broke. You can't have it all. You got to pick and choose. Life is about trade-offs. It's not about absolute solutions. It's never been, and I'm sorry to say that. So, yeah, unpopular opinion, you got to settle in all scenarios. And by the time you hit 30, you definitely got to settle. But anyway, I'm going to tag her page, her channel in the bio. Shout out to her. I love when people give their honest truth. So she gave an honest truth, and I appreciate it. I'm giving my honest feedback. So check out Ziva. Her link is in the description to her channel. And check out some of my other videos, and I'll see you guys over there.